Hi. In this podcast, we're going to talk to Ravi from India Hikes. India Hikes is a major trekking company in India, which was established by Arjun sir. So, the main motto behind India Hikes is ethics and values and bringing humans or taking humans back into nature with respect to the nature and with respect to the human beings for our physical well-being and mental well-being. To know more about trekking, please do watch the podcast. Yes, please do subscribe. Thank you so much. Hi Ravi, welcome to the L Cube show.
Hello, Pratyusha. Nice to meet you.
Thank you for coming. We have Ravi here from India Hikes. India Hike is a huge trekking company, I would say, with values, basically with values and ethics. We will know more about them while we're speaking with Ravi. Ravi has been traveling with them for so long now. And it's like a family. India Hikes is basically a family, and they treat their trekkers as family. So now, Ravi, tell me, where are you from and how did you end up with India Hikes?
Hello everyone. My name is Ravi, and I have been a part of this organization for last 5 years now. And like any individual in this world, I had my dreams to do few things, which was directed through family and all. And after my schooling, I joined an organization. I worked with the government for a while. But then over a period of time, I realized that I wanted something more, but that what was that more, it was not clear. And eventually I had to move out of that profession. And once I came out, I started traveling. And during that travels, when I went into the mountains, I realized this was my place. And having said that, it's also important that the work also gives you that stability towards your life, because you cannot keep on just traveling.
Yes.
And I was not too great in other aspects in life, but I definitely wanted to bring in some sort of change in people whom I would interact or get in touch with. So I came to know about India Hikes. So this organization, from the beginning itself, when I heard from people, it stood for its values, it stood for its vision, and it wanted to solve the problem of trekking in our country. And I felt that this was the place I wanted to be.
Can I ask, why did you feel like this is not your thing when you're in the government? And can you explain that a little bit more for me? In mountains, you said that you felt at peace, right? Can you explain what is that feeling? Because there are a lot of people who actually exactly feel like you, but they are goalless, they are directionless. What would you tell them? Why, in the first place, you felt peace? And then what would you tell people like that? Like, you can travel, you can do whatever you want, but what is the direction you would advise them to?
Slightly very personal, how my journey was. So when I was working in my previous organization, my days, my nights, my whole timetable was kind of like fixed. I would know what I would be doing in the next week, or what I would like every day when I would wake up in the morning. I knew what I had to do, and it was kind of like a mundane work. It was going into, and to be very frank, I was not able to understand if I had an impact, a direct impact on the work exactly that I was doing. Yes, I was getting paid, but that satisfaction part, which was needed, which it was not there. And to be very frank, as a child, I was always an explorer. I wanted to venture out into the outdoors. In my friend circle, also, I was the one who used to just venture out into the jungles or nearby hikes around my houses. I was smashed, beaten by my parents and my like all those people, just because I would just take people, or just go around here and there. And somewhere that feeling was always there, that I wanted to be around people. I wanted to take people into the mountains so that they could experience something profound. So when you ask this question, what made me feel attached to the mountain? So it's not something that happens suddenly. It is just like a connection that you have. Everybody has got different kind of connection that you feel. But mountains is one place, and when I say mountains, it's basically outdoors. When you go into the outdoors, automatically there is a sense, like if I talk about from a scientific perspective, you get all these hormonal bursts of happiness that you get. And during that period of time, I personally feel that you get to connect with things a little more. Like, for example, for me, I was able to understand my own challenges. I was able to understand what exactly did I want from my life? So that clarity part would come whenever I go into the mountain. So whenever you start walking into those mountains, those trails, when you are like absolutely tired, it's like meditation. Your focus, your whole focus is there on your exact at that moment. And with that clarity, when you have to take a decision, I found it was easier for me to take those calls. And I had always been an admirer of trees, birds, all those landscape, those snow laden mountains. It
Nature.
would always make me feel like jump with joy, just like
Yeah.
even today those snow laden peaks. It just makes you feel as if like you are a kid. You are the real person. You are not the person who has all those layers of the society that you are carrying. And once I had that clarity, I was sure that I wanted this career for my life.
Do
And
you
frankly
find
speaking, in India,
I'm sorry, do you find the same feeling with people who come to India hikes and trek with you guys? Even though you spend a couple of days or sometimes a week together, do you find this feeling what you're exactly described to me right now? Do you find it in them too? Even though they're in their, workforces and everyday life and everyday tensions, but can you see the difference of a person when you started trekking with India hikes, particularly because you're working for them? And by the end of the trek, do you see the same feeling which you described to me in the people too?
of course, to be very frank, that is the salary for me.
Okay.
Okay, so we always tell these two trekkers, okay, whenever they come on the first day and the last day when they leave, there is a change in those people. So yeah, personally, that person will not be able to identify if there had been any change. But those people whom they see from the outside, they
Mm.
are able to see that change. That okay, this person has become relatively more happier. That
Yeah.
person is more jovial. This is like almost 70-80% of the times I could hear from people complimenting that they had received after the trek. So these are very external things. Internally, a lot of things happen. So many trekkers, once they go back, they adapt some sort of lifestyle which
Changes.
they would have never done. For
Mm.
example, sustainability. That is one of the biggest
Mm.
aspect that they take back. Fitness is something again which nobody looks at
Yeah.
with such seriousness, but after treks it comes in. And I think the resilience, sympathy, these are like many other aspects which people do
Mm.
not realize,
And connectivity
but they
also,
actually
connectivity with
sense
other
it.
humans. Could we say connection with other
Yes, yes,
humans also?
exactly. Yes, of course. Many people who come in with the mindset that, okay, this is my space, I just want to be here. But
Mm.
I've always seen that it's just not the mountains, it's also the people whom you trek along with make this whole experience more wholesome. To be very
Okay.
frank, even personally, I was also a person who would feel that, okay, I am, the solo traveler, that solo feeling and all.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Yeah, I think what happens to a person is that in the general day-to-day life, you build mountains around you, like walls or mountains, whatever you want to call them, like your private space and things. But I think when you go into those mountains, looking at the gigantic, majestic mountains, you feel very small, and then all your walls and all your mountains around you just comes crumbling down.
yeah,
Yeah. So first let's go into what is trekking,
right,
because I
of
want
course,
to
it
know.
does happen. Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to know the difference between what is trekking and how people go to summit the mountains, right? I want to know what
Yeah.
is trekking and what types of trekking are there, because I saw you guys, you are trekking to lakes, into the forest, on the mountains, on the valleys. So how does trekking work? What is trekking basically?
Many people ask this question from a very terminological
Mm.
perspective. Like, so there are some type terminology that we use. One is mountaineering, one is trekking, one is hiking, and all. So all these activities have different sort of skill set that may not be required. For
Mm-hmm.
example, mountaineering is a more rugged, hard skill based that is undertaken, where you need all those mountaineering equipments, technical equipment which you require. You need Sherpas, you need support stuff to actually ascertain that you can climb
Yeah.
that high mountain peaks. But when it comes to trekking, these are like it's a combination, like a partly a combination of mountaineering elements, because when you go for the summit, the day can be challenging when there can be snow, there can be wind. Mostly all these treks are laid out in such a manner that anybody can undertake this activity. And when I say anybody, it means that people from all ages. It starts from maybe a jungle side, and then it may go around in between those clearings in the middle of the forest, and then you camp overnight. Then you have your food, shelter, everything is kind of like provided onto the trek. And alongside it, at India Hikes, we ensure that all these treks do not go just like that. They are kind of like curated, so
Mhm.
that all these elements of nature which you see, you just don't go from point A to B, finishing campsite to campsite and altitude. You also observe. So going from, it's just not going from A to B. So with the India Hikes experience is basically from once you go from one location to the other, there are several experiences a trek leader conducts, which ensures that all these elements that you experience onto the trek also comes in as a learning experience overall. Just like how you
Like
just mentioned that
for
you tend to
example.
come. So there is one activity that we make our trekkers hug a tree. I don't know how many people have actually done this activity in their life, but you know what? Once you go into that place, the setting and the place is such. The moment you touch a tree, you do get some sort of a feeling that you're touching not just a piece of wood. You're touching a piece of life, which is
Life.
just like you. It just cannot express. But who knows? Sometimes you may that get that emotional connect,
Love
which
that. I saw that from India Hikes, you have team members who take you to this
yeah,
trekking, right? So,
yeah.
what is their qualification and what do they have to carry with you safety wise? And what is generally their qualification so that the person who comes to trekking feels safe?
So most of so the whole team, when you go on a trek, there is a lot of there are people who are there in the back end,
Mm,
and then there are people who are there in the front end.
mm,
So on trek there is a base camp. So in the base camp there are people who take care, and then there is a second team who walks along with the trekkers. So that team includes a trek leader and guides. So I'll explain who the trek leader is. So trek leader comes from any part of the world that person can join in. Even I joined in as a trek leader. I led a few groups. So the basic qualification that is required is that you have to do at least 2 high altitude treks, and alongside this you need to be having those certifications from the government, that is BMC or AMC. The BMC stands for Basic Mountaineering Course and Advanced Mountaineering Course. Alongside it, if you have any medical related certification, that is also added as a added bonus. But to be very frank, we at India Hikes, we consider the personal qualities of that person, the love towards the outdoors, and how much that person has to give back is
yeah.
some is and how good that person is in his soft skill is something that we look forward to. Which
Mm.
sometimes we kind of like let go of that hard skill and take priority on this, because within India Hikes, our training procedure are so strong that within that stipulated period of time, people do learn all these aspects, and during this period itself, they can go for those certifications as well.
Yeah, sorry. Would you say that, let's say, imagine 10 years ago or 15 years ago, in India particularly, because we are speaking about in India, can you imagine companies like this?
No, no way.
No, right?
I think 15 years ago, the biggest challenge for trekking community in India was information.
Mm.
There was no information available anywhere. So if anybody, whether you, me, or anybody would want to go on a trek, we were literally we were unaware, because there was no particular platform where people would get the information about treks and they would go by
Mm.
themselves. And frankly speaking, India Hike started with this vision itself to provide all these information. So there is a story associated with it. Maybe I'll share something.
No, no, go on. Please tell me the story. I'm interested in the story.
Yes, yes, yes. So Mr. Arjun, he is our founder. So uh, he he was going on a treks on a regular basis, and he knew the impact of trekking on mind, body, and spirit. And many of his friends wanted to go on trekking, but it was a very small group, and they always talked about why not others, why not other Indians can also trek.
Mm.
So what he did was he went on to one trek, which is Roopkund. It's a very famous trek in India.
Mm.
He went on and wrote this whole trek as a documentation. And when I say documentation, it was not a blog, it was not his personal experience. It was like a proper documentation. What point is the water source? What are the
Wow.
telephone numbers of all those people who are living over there? How can you reach over there? What is the vehicle that comes to that base camp and all? Who are the people who can arrange these photos and all and everything? He mentioned each and everything in one of the forums, and that forum went viral. overnight. And all these people whose phone number was mentioned, they all started getting call. That was the starting point. That was like the seed of India Hikes that was sown at that time. Because immediately after that, the website was launched, and then post that, India Hikes was primarily a documentation organization, which we do even today. We have almost like 250 documented treks around different parts of India, and we are also venturing outside India as well.
The difference between you guys and then generally what we see, these days in social media is that it looks like, let's say, I don't want to take names or anything, but it looks like you have a professional person who is going to take care of your safety, and the person is going to reach you from A to B. But with you guys, it feels like each step of the way. It feels more real. It feels more natural with you guys. That is the difference I felt. Even though you did not have, let's say, too costly equipment with you carrying, or too costly and too rich of tents or anything, you didn't have that. What do you call? What is the word? Like posh or anything? But it's so like natural. It's so natural.
So basically many people ask that why don't you conduct treks in more with more facilities? Okay, facilities in the sense people want more of these like how in aircraft you have a business class and you have a general class. Okay, so there's business class facilities on treks. So
basically, the business class is nature, right? You are taking them to business class. That's nature.
You won't believe. I'll give you a very small example. Many people, when they come onto the treks, they always ask, why don't you allow us to listen to music on the trail and all? Frankly speaking, music is music. Like, why should somebody stop?
It's there.
Yeah. Why anybody would stop anybody from listening to music? But frankly speaking, when you walk on the trail, I'm telling you, if you just keep quiet for like 5 minutes, the number of birds that you will hear, and mostly we always anticipate birds, but I'm telling you, even the silence is so profound. How many times in your life you get an opportunity to be silent, or to hear the breeze which is just flowing here and there, and sometimes you won't believe the sound of those breeze is just like the waves of the sea that you will get in a beaches. I'm telling you, it's. And
why people want to hear music? Because the breeze sound is scary. It will reflect you, so you can hear your inner sound. So that's why it's scary.
Sometimes, yes. But to be very frank, after a couple of days, everybody understands. Yes. And that is the thing that they take back. Yes. And then they start acknowledging it. It's just about individual. It's about each one of them.
Yeah. And food wise, I really want to ask you this, because in your reels, I saw you eating pani puri to chole bhatura to normal food you guys were eating. But general, imagination is that you're going to eat only light food, very light food or something. So tell me about the food, so that if any foodie wants to come on your trek, they're not going to miss anything, right?
Ask any trek leader, ask any person who goes on an India Hikes trek. They all relish the food so much.
Yes, I see
all
that.
These food items, they are carried at that altitude. Imagine you're getting a pani puri at 10,000.
Pani puri, yes.
Yeah.
Guys, go to India Hikes trekking. You can get pani puri over there too. What else do you want? Yeah,
that is an out of the world experience. So the thing is that, so what happens in high altitude is usually your appetite goes down, and then you need high calorie stuff over there, because these are long days. You have to walk, and then it's extremely cold. You're losing your body heat on a regular basis. So to compensate that, we need to provide something that is tasty, but at the same time. So India Hikes menu is, again, it's a curated. There are team members who constantly plan for this particular trek, what kind of food will be good at this altitude, what nutrition is good for your health, what is not. Okay, and then there needs to be a combination of these kind of food as well, because it always keeps you motivated to have something.
Yeah.
Okay, and the biggest thing that India Hikes is known for is its gulab jamun. So after the summit day, people get gulab jamun at 14, 13, whatever feet. Yeah, that is like out of the world experience.
Yeah. So for any middle class person, generally, whenever we hear the sound trekking or mountaineering or biking, First thing is you get scared about the cost. The dress has to be certain brand, so it is costly, or the bag has to be certain brand, so it's costly. Tell me the basic requirements. This will do. You don't need these things, because I want everyone to experience this. So what would you say for that?
I would start off with that. See, trekking is an experience. You're paying for an experience. Experience depends on the kind of things that you want to take back, and it is applicable for anything that you do in your life. And the take backs from trekking is enormous. So only to people to understand how much money they should be spending for this thing. I think trekking is the amount of money that is charged for trekking in India right now. It's very minimal, very basic. Now coming to all these gears and all, I think majority of the people have got these doubts and conditions. So the thing is that the best thing that you can do for a trek is to minimize the cost is rent. Anywhere you go, there are like organization who will give you things for rent. So your shoes are mandatory, they're very important, but trekking shoes are very specific to treks. I mean, you need to have those high ankle shoes, and those comes very expensive. So rather than buying them, it's better to rent. Similarly, your backpacks and all, everything comes in expensive, so just go for renting. Having said that, now after a while you become somebody who treks regularly. So once you understand that, okay, if every 2 months you are going on a trek, then maybe you can buy things. I think you can start off with shoes. You can start off with backpacks, because backpack and shoes, these two are very personal, because once you start carrying them, then your body also gets adjusted to the size and weight and all. These two things are kind of like mandatory thing that you can buy. Rest of the things, it depends on time and situation. Trek poles, clothing, everything maybe you can just take it from one of your friends and you can just carry it rather than
Does India Hike provide these rental as well?
Yes, we do provide rentals. Great. We have a dedicated team for it. Yeah.
Oh, that's great then. That's what I want to know then. So
yeah, it goes with the spirit of trekking, right? If it's too expensive, people will not do treks.
So tell me the list of things India Hikes provide. From, let's say today I decide that I want to trek somewhere. I come in and knock at your office saying I want to trek.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it. So India Hikes provide this. Tick. Tell me a list of that. What India Hikes provide briefly.
Okay, we have backpacks, we have shoes, poncho, tiffin box, then we have jacket and head torches. Okay, I think the list is long. And so for these items, you have to pay the rent.
Yeah. One more small thing here is that if anybody is, there are terminal illnesses which don't need regular medication, or they're not sick, but it's a terminal illness which is going to be there for a lifetime. Would you encourage people like that also, or do you have any cautions for people like that?
Anybody having any sort of terminal illness, I think they need to check with their doctors once. Many trekkers who come and trek with us having hypertension, having allergies, having asthma, but they are all under medication and they are able to do the trek. But having said that, every trekker has to give a medical certificate before joining in.
Okay.
So based on that, the doctors can decide they can come. And to be very frank, with medication and all, the trekkers have been able to do the trek. The only important aspect is how fit and prepared you are for the trek. So your fitness, your preparation is more important. The rest of the things carries forward. Having said that, on trek, if there is any complication, our team members are trained to take care of those scenarios, and in those situations, the trekkers might be asked to descend down, but these are very rare cases that we have.
Touch wood, but did you face any issues with, how in high altitudes you have oxygen issues and stuff like that? You can't predict, right? Even if you're fit, even though you are medically certified and everything, did you face any issues with health-wise and how you had to deal with it? Any issues like that with your trekkers?
Yes, of course. It's part and parcel of our work. Despite fit that person is, or in medication, whatever things that person is, how high altitude treats your body is very different between each other. Like for example, even if I have climbed 50 mountains, but tomorrow if I go on a trek, it will be like I will be also susceptible to all those altitude sicknesses. So yes, I had faced those situations. I remember I was in Hamta Pass. In 2021, Hamta Pass, it will be a little long story. Is it okay if I'm able to narrate this? Because this was one of the most serious cases that I had handled along with my team. So June 25th, 2021, I was along with my team at Chatru campsite. So Chatru campsite is at 10,300 feet,
Feet.
and this is in Spiti Valley. So it was almost like right night 8:30, 9 o'clock. So our campsite was on this side of the Chandra River. So the Chandra River is flows in this Spiti Valley, and on the other side of the Chandra Pass is the last campsite of Hamta Pass. That is Shiaguru. Shiaguru is at 13,400 feet. We saw some lights coming in at around 9 o'clock, and at night 9 o'clock, if we see any kind of light, then our alarms go up because rarely people travel at that altitude at that location with that light.
Okay.
So after some time, I started looking at it, and then I could see that they were blinking the light.
Oh.
And then I thought that okay, something is wrong. So I also reciprocated. I asked all the trekkers to close their lights, and then I was only blinking. And then we both could communicate through the torchlight. And then we realized that okay, there is some problem.
Okay.
So immediately we rushed. So that point was almost like 4 kilometers, around 3 kilometers from our campsite. So immediately, like we started running and rushing, and it was like a vertical climb. And when we reached over there, it was a situation over there. So we saw there was a trekker
Okay.
who was being carried by 4 team members on a stretcher, and he was almost on the verge of getting unconscious.
Wow.
And I was along with my team member. His name is Aditya. So he was the tech leader of the group, and I was just accompanying it. And he put on the oximeter, and when he checked the oxy reading, you won't believe it was coming in as 37. Okay.
Oh my God.
So 37 oxy reading, if you talk from a medical perspective at that altitude, so that person was kind of like almost at a severe stage of HAPE or haze that we didn't know at that time. But at that oxygen saturation, he would not survive for more than an hour or something. Okay.
Okay.
And then we had to take quick calls. So we immediately gave him the medication that is supposed to be given. And then we had to evaluate. We were carrying one oxygen cylinder, and there was another oxygen cylinder.
Why didn't they have the oxygen cylinder, and why didn't they have the precautions?
They had their oxygen cylinder, but it was already over because they were giving that oxygen since afternoon itself. But they were rationing it because they just had that one oxygen cylinder with them.
Right.
So we had to take an immediate call. We started descending down. But I'm telling you the most terrible part. So you have to reach to Manali. So you have to go through all the roads of Spiti, Lahore Spiti area. And to reach to Manali, it would take at least 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours.
Oh my God.
And it was a challenging situation. So we immediately, all the team members, we brought that person down. We had one big oxygen cylinder, and we started carrying that person on a vehicle that we had. You won't believe, after giving medication and descending down was one kind of challenge. Like in one word, I will say that okay, people descended him down. But I'm telling you, at that terrain, when one slip and then everybody goes down into the Chandra River. Okay, that scary situation. In that situation, all of the team members carrying that person heavyweight, okay, all the way down, and then we had got 2 oxygen cylinders. And then on the vehicle, in one situation, what had happened? This person had came out to pee. You won't believe, after doing his business, the moment he was coming back, he again collapsed, and we checked his oxygen saturation. It went down again to 50, some 45, 50. So he was not able to sustain that whole support that we were providing. But we were just praying, one more hour, he could just survive. Eventually, we reached Manali at around 2:30 in the night, and we took him to the hospital. And the doctor said that he just reached in time, and whatever medication that was given to him, it was like if that was not given, he wouldn't have survived. Okay.
Wow.
He did not belong from our organization.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying this from the perspective that many people, when they don't understand the importance of all these safety concerns, that is when the trekking in general becomes
basically you're risking other people's lives also, right?
Yes,
like
of course,
people like you who went to help, and then what if when you're descending, anything can happen.
Yes, of course. And this person also, I will tell you, which is also a misconception, and people carry this kind of ego when they go into the mountains. So this person had done quite a good number of treks in the past, and he was going with a group. So at climbing at a certain, so he was going to Hamta Pass. So Hamta Pass is at 14,300 feet. So at 12,000 feet itself, he had started experiencing those headache and other nausea and other symptoms as well. But he still decided to continue, saying that he had done all those treks in the past and he knows what is going around with him. And those people who were taking him, they also felt that okay, since he has done the trek, chalo, let us take him. But then his situation deteriorated and he actually had a severe HAPE case. HAPE stands for high altitude pulmonary edema, where your lungs accumulate fluid inside it, and it is a fatal situation. And the best thing for safety is to descend down immediately, which this trekker did not undertake, and then eventually he survived, but then it was just a touch and go situation.
Okay, so the signals for this HAPE is that how do we identify that it started in the beginning stage? Is that the headaches and nausea, or is there anything else which is alarming that you are entering the stage of HAPE?
So basically, we check for these kind of complication. Every complication has got certain signs and symptoms. For HAPE specifically, the person becomes extremely tired, and that person kind of like pants for air, like breathless, even at rest. And then obviously the oxygen saturation also starts to go down. And there is a kind of like a window period. So that window period is the time period, either medication or something through which you can buy some time so that person can be descended down. But if that thing is not undertaken, then it can go other way around.
Got it. We did a podcast with Saloni about yoga, and in that she said something like she does asanas, right? All these yoga asanas, and we said something like you should know where to stop, not just push yourself to the asana to make it perfect. You need to make it. Do it slowly. You need to know where to stop. That is the thing we took out of that podcast. Okay, so what would you say, like, from that experience, like, what did that person learn from that experience, at least that person who faced all these things?
I think the first lesson that he learned was to let go of his ego.
God, yeah.
It was just his ego who was directing him to take him forward in that journey, that he could do that. And I think even in our lives, we sometimes we put too much of burden onto ourselves without knowing that it's not always wise to put. We always talk about others, but when it comes to ourselves, sometimes we are not as empathetic towards ourselves. And it goes the other way around. So that person learned it
hard way. Yeah. So what are the treks in India, in Himalayas, you would say, like, oh my God, you should trek this? Like, these are the amazing treks, like the best in India?
This is a very difficult question.
Is it? You love everything?
I must tell you, so all these treks that you see that India Hikes conducts, so there are like 37, 38 treks that we conduct. But to be very frank, there are hundreds of other treks that we trek leaders or other team members go for exploration. And for us, it becomes very difficult to decide that whether this trek can be promoted as for trekkers or people can go on the trek, because each of these treks are beautiful.
Why would you say that? Why would you say that? Can these be promoted? What is the difference there?
It's just about the experience and how like a normal person can undertake. So whenever we start a trek, it's not like that only a certain kind of people can do the trek. We always see from the lens that everybody must trek. That is our vision. So can a 8-year-old do that trek? Can a 50-year-old can do that trek? And will that person will be having a good experience, or will that person be having an extremely difficult time? So all these factors, and alongside it, how is the flora, fauna, the visuals, everything is set up, and other aspects as well, like how logistically this trek is possible. So all these aspects are to be considered. So based on that only we take a decision of running a trek.
I don't know if I can put the question in this way, but it is there, it is there outside in the world happening and things like that. Women's safety. Can you tell me how India Hikes take care of trekking?
Of course. We personally, we feel that the more the number of women trek in our country, it will show the progress. Indirectly, it will show the progress of our country, because since you are asking this question, That itself means that there are so many restrictions, prohibitions of a woman traveling. Forget about, I mean, traveling
Yeah,
alone,
forget
even
about
traveling
trekking.
with,
Just coming back home
uh,
at 10 o'clock at night is a big question.
exactly, exactly.
Right now.
That's
Yeah.
the point. Okay, but that's what trekking does. So we have seen a change in the total number of the involvement of women in our group. It has almost touched 40%, which we wanted to grow by 50%.
Yeah.
But even these numbers are quite promising that we are seeing right now. What we do, it's just that whatever trek that we consider, there is no difference in what men and women
Yes.
have to face.
Hmm.
Okay, and all so the most important aspect of any trek is information. So for anybody who is coming from a city who has never done a trek, for family
Hmm.
members also,
Hmm.
the most important aspect is they should know each and every aspect of the trek, and all these informations, pre-trek, during the trek and post-trek, all these informations are shared like in a proper manner. That is number one. And
Hmm.
number two, as an organization, we also want that more and more women should come forward and do the trek. So that goes
Why
hand.
would you say that? Can I ask, like, why do you want more and more women to come and trek? What is it that they're getting out of it?
It's the same feeling. It just shows that we all are same. We are all equal. And women, when they trek, I mean, uh, okay, I give this example of my own sister. She was
Okay.
going through a lot in her life. I mean, her marriage got broken, and she was going through depression, and she didn't know what to do. She had consulted few people as well. She went for a therapy,
Yeah.
but nothing was helping her.
Hmm.
And one of her friends, she was just going on a hike. It was not a proper trek. It was just a 2 day hike. And my sister just joined that group. Nothing specific happened on this trek, but the kind of people whom she met, and when she heard their stories of how they are undergoing difficulties in their own life, but they are finding ways
Hmm.
to make life relatively better, it changed her perspective. And after that trek, have
Yeah.
a
Now you're there. Now
did
you're
I
there.
break?
Now you're there. Yeah, we got broke,
Yeah.
but you're here. Yeah. So it changed her
Yeah. So once
perspective.
it changed her perspective. For women to identify something like this and to do something that is actually enduring, it is a huge moral booster for women in general in our country.
Yeah.
So I, like, if you ask me personally, this is kind of like an activity all women should undertake.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
has a huge impact on them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I wouldn't go for like this is my personal opinion. I wouldn't go for men and women are equal. They're different and they're beautiful in their own way. That's where I want
Yeah.
to look at it as. And we should not segregate in these kind of things. But as you said, when you go to different places like this and change of things happen, definitely it is going to make your mind fresher, right? In this world,
Yes, of
particularly
course.
the stress and everything happening, and all these words of
Yeah.
depression, anxiety, and all these things is all happening because we are moving away from the nature. Simple.
Yeah.
Period. Stop. It's not done yet. So the second part of trekking episode is going to get released next Saturday. In the next coming episode, we're going to learn about survival skills, not even just trekking, any survival skills and places to trek in India, environment wise, how we are destroying nature, and even when we are trekking and going into the nature, how we are supposed to be respecting it. Please do subscribe. Thank you so much.